Hello to our viewers. Welcome to ALD No Limits. I'm Christy.
And I'm Ken. And our guest this episode is Katie. Welcome to No Limits, Katie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, we're so glad to have you here with us, and we're excited to chat. Can you tell us about yourself a little bit?
I sure can. I am a wife. I'm a mom. I'm also a PhD trained scientist who's found myself working in the pharma industry for the last 15 years, currently in marketing. I never thought that I would have to use my professional background to help navigate a rare disease within our family.
Yeah, wow. So you're quite qualified. Dr. Marino. We're here with Dr. Marino. A PhD. Awesome. So tell us about that connection, your family's story with ALD. How did you find out about it?
Yeah. We were a pretty normal family all the way up until 2008-ish. I have two boys. My husband and I have two boys. They're about 18 months apart. And in 2008, they were both, I think they were 9 and 8. So we were in that window where they're not quite, their birthdays hadn't quite come. So it seemed like they're a year apart. And we were just busy managing work and sports and fights that came up. And then around early 2009, our youngest son, Braden, who always had a few things that stood out about him. He was super tan. People used to tease us that he would change race in the summertime, especially my neighbor, who is Indian. I can share a picture of him. Yep, here we are. So Braden's the little tan guy on the screen. And in fact, one time I took him just for an annual dermatology appointment, and the nurse there asked me if I put tanning lotion on him, which of course I would not put tanning lotion on him. It seemed silly at the time. In 2009, he was 9 years old, and he started having what we thought was anxiety and depression. He was doing gymnastics, he had friends at school, but all of a sudden he was exhibiting these behaviors where if he was in one room in the house and one of us left the room to go somewhere else, he would be right at our side. He would be so fearful. He would not want to be in a room alone. And like, I couldn't even go into the bathroom. He would want the bathroom door open so he could sit right outside of it. And this started to escalate into things like at night, trouble going to sleep. He started these rituals where he had to have certain lights on, certain doors open. He had to look in certain spaces. And then he started how he would not want to go to gymnastics. He would say he was too tired or too anxious. It started getting in the mornings for school. He was seeing 2 different therapists to help him through this. And some days he would even vomit before school. We thought all of this was some type of anxiety that he was having. And then late in 2009, he got sick, and he would wake up in the morning, he would throw up, and then he would be lethargic all day. We thought it was a virus, but after 3 days and he wasn't getting better, I took him to his pediatrician, and she said, you need to take him to the hospital right away. So we went to the hospital. He was admitted. And while we were there, we spent 2 days in the ICU. He was diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency, and we spent another week in the regular part of the hospital as they were treating him with cortisol and getting him balanced again and teaching us about how to maintain with medication at home. During that time, they also mentioned that long word, adrenoleukodystrophy. So he was 9 years old, he was almost 10. And they said they needed to test him for it because it's quite unusual for boys to have adrenal insufficiency. They don't think he has it, but they just want to be sure. So I looked it up, and I was like, there's no way he has that. I told my husband, they're looking for it. We get test results back in a couple of weeks, but don't look it up. So we were discharged. We went home. Braden, he got physically healthier because now his adrenal insufficiency was being treated. Those behaviors that we saw that we thought were anxiety went away. It was due to the adrenal insufficiency. He gained weight. He got back involved with school and activities. And then we finally got in to see his endocrinologist at Boston Children's. And she said, did they do any other test results? And we said, yes, they were testing for adrenoleukodystrophy, but we've never received those. Are they in the system? No, she couldn't find them. There was a doctor at UMass where Braden was originally treated that we had become friendly with. I reached out to him. He texted me an image of these results, and they were cut off, but you could see that the long chain fatty acids were high, but the analysis from Quest was cut off. And when I gave it to the doctor at Boston Children's, she's like, well, I can't interpret these because she doesn't have the rest of the information. And that doctor wasn't able to find the full file. So they retested him, and we had to wait another couple weeks. Those results came in an email first thing in the morning. I remember Chris, my husband, waking me up with tears in his eyes saying he has it. And we had to hold ourselves together to get the kids out the door for school, even though we were like white terror, fearful inside. We got them to school. He and I sat on the couch and we were crying, wondering, what does this even mean for Braden's future? And I have a friend, she lives down the street, who has a child with rare disease, and she's been on this journey a lot longer than us. And I messaged her, she knew we were waiting for these results, and she said, you should reach out to ALD Connect. And I was like, nowhere else to reach out to at this point. So on a whim, as we were sitting on the couch, I emailed ALD Connect, said what just happened. Our son, 9-year-old son, was just diagnosed with adrenoleukodystrophy, and I left my phone number. And within 10 minutes, Dr. Eichler was on our phone, and that moment gave us hope, because what he said to us was, this isn't a death sentence. He asked about symptoms Braden had been having. We expedited an MRI, and he was able to get in for an MRI within a week, and it was clear. And that was the first time we were able to breathe easy since that whole ordeal started.
Wow.
Share a picture of that was Braden when we were in the hospital and he was first experiencing all those symptoms. You can see how tan his skin is. He had lost hair in his eyebrows, and all this had happened so gradually. It wasn't like he changed overnight. So we miss it.
Yeah. I mean, how terrifying, though, the whole hospital experience and really not knowing what was going on. I'm a little surprised that they made a quick connection between adrenal insufficiency and adrenoleukodystrophy, and they tested for that right away, because sometimes you hear that people go quite a while before finding out about the ALD diagnosis.
Yeah, I think we were lucky in that way that it was the endocrinologist treating him that said we should test for it. I don't know how he had that knowledge or where it came from, but thank goodness he did. And thank goodness his endocrinologist at Boston Children's also was aware it could be something.
Right. Yeah. And this is all and you all, where are you from?
So yes, I didn't say that in the beginning. I grew up in Alaska. My husband grew up in New Hampshire. I came out east for graduate school, and he and I met and got married. We lived in Vermont, and then there was no newborn screening in Vermont, which is where our boys were born. And then as they got a little older, we moved to Massachusetts, and that's where we are now. So that's where all of this happened.
All of this happened in Massachusetts, but right. So it was prior to newborn screening in most states.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how fortunate that ALD Connect was, just starting out probably at that point, and
Yeah.
you got connected and got that clear MRI right away too.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. When you receive a diagnosis, you don't know where to go with something like this.
Right.
So we're really fortunate to have that connection to Dr. Eichler so quickly.
Nice. Yeah. So tell us about what happened next. So you were focused on your son, and then I wonder about cascade family testing. Were other people in your family tested, and what did you find out?
Yeah. So first I'll tell you what happened with Braden. I mentioned, physically he got better. I think if you're an ALD parent, there is a lot of testing and things that have to happen. So we established his care team. He started the every 6 month MRIs. He also started medication for adrenal insufficiency, which is, cortisol and fludrocortisone 3 times a day. The hydrocortisone is 3 times and Fludro is twice. And just getting used to that and educating his teachers and his friends. So if he's staying the night or something, making sure that he has the safety net around him, and then communicating to the family. And when I presented at Harvard, I got a really interesting question from one of the students. They said they were curious about, well, how do we explain it to Braden and his brother when he was so young? And I remember that being something we really struggled with. Do we tell him the enormity of, this diagnosis? And the guidance we were given by Dr. Eichler and his endocrinologist was to be as honest as possible at their level. Because if you don't explain what's happening and why, they're going to make a story up in their mind, and that can be even worse than the current situation and not being able to speak to you about it, or when questions come up in their mind.
Yeah. So that's an interesting piece too, is how do you talk to your child without terrifying them and making them so scared?
Especially when he didn't have a cell phone at the time, but his brother did. And I remember at one point they looked it up, and getting the question from Braden, am I going to be able to walk in the future? And not being able to answer, as much as we do. I don't know, Ken, because your brother was diagnosed earlier on, right? Did you know?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few years where that, and I think it was always in the back of my head. Well, is this coming? And that was it was still the unknown. And so, but yeah, we've talked about this before too, about having an early diagnosis, and you live growing up with that, and once you get old enough to understand it, and you tell them, it's always in the back of the brain. And but so as far as so his brother, was there any go back to like the testing?
Yeah. So the next step was genetic testing. We held our breath, waiting on the test for his brother, because we knew it was 50-50. I had this thought in the back of my mind, because his brother's colorblind, and I know that's X-linked as well, and Braden's not colorblind, so I'm like, he must have got the other X chromosome. I know it's not that simple. You don't just get one, you get parts of them. But the good news is his older brother Ryan does not have ALD. So that was a really good moment when we found that out. What we did find out, if I can go to the next slide. So I have ALD. I have a pretty small family. So I have an uncle and I have a brother. And at this point, my brother's in his 40s, my uncle is in his 70s. Neither are symptomatic. My brother decided not to get tested. He felt pretty confident that he doesn't have the disease, because he's in his 50s now, still asymptomatic. I would like him to get tested. But what I can tell you is my grandmother, who's there on the screen in the purple, that's her at our wedding. You might notice she's in a wheelchair. So she started having symptoms in her 30s that started with a tremor. It was diagnosed as benign familial tremor. It was in her legs, in her hands, in her head. As she got older, it made it more difficult for her to eat because of, the tremor and trying to feed herself or take care of herself. And then in her 50s, she started having difficulty walking. And it started with a cane and then a walker and then eventually to a wheelchair. She was told she has spinal stenosis, so we didn't know. And my grandmother passed before Braden was diagnosed, so we never did the genetic testing, but I think we can be fairly confident that she had ALD. And then over in the other picture is our family again. My mom is there, and you'll notice she's walking with a cane. So my mom had a slight tremor, not like my grandmother. Hers was more in her head, and she started having walking difficulties when she was in her late 50s as well. She's since had a stroke and she's passed, so I don't necessarily know if things would have progressed. But I can tell you they both had neurogenic bowel and neurogenic bladder as well. And then my husband's parents are in that picture as well. And I actually started developing symptoms before Braden was diagnosed. I was probably 34. It's probably 3 years before Braden was diagnosed. I woke up with my head pulling to the side, and then I had a back and forth tremor. And I went to a neurologist who said, "Oh, you also have benign familial tremor like your grandmother." And I was like, "No, that doesn't seem right." Hers was like full body. Mine was in my head. So what's that?
Said, yeah.
Yeah. So I read a bunch of papers on different movement disorders. I found a doctor who'd done a lot of studies, and I emailed him and I was like, "Does this seem right? It's in my head. It's not in my body. Do you really think this might be benign familial tremor?" He said, "Sounds more like dystonia." And he told me about the name of a local movement disorder specialist in Massachusetts. And I went to her and I was diagnosed with dystonia. I'm probably the poster child for Botox, because I would say you probably can't even tell I have it. I get Botox injections from above my ears down my shoulders every 3 months. And for a good solid 2 months.
That's why you look so good.
Exactly.
You look
wrinkle.
so young.
Well, my last neurologist used to also put it, a little in my face, but the new one won't.
The bonus. Yeah, the bonus shot. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It keeps me straightened out, and it usually wears off about 2 months in, and I'll start to get the tremor back a little bit. But I mean, I can't complain. It takes away the pain and the pulling in my neck, and the tremor's embarrassing, but I get used to it.
Yeah, I've never noticed that. And we've talked quite a bit at different conferences and things. I've never noticed a tremor. But I'm sure, you're conscious of it when the Botox is no longer working and you can feel it. And yeah. So tell us about other, do you have other symptoms?
I do. I have neurogenic bowel and I have neurogenic bladder, and I deal with incontinence. It impacts my day-to-day significantly, and it's something that's hard to talk about because I think people look at me and they're like, "Oh, she looks fine, she looks healthy," but every time I leave my house, I have to set up a bathroom in the back of my car, and I have to bring extra clothes. I have a medical accommodation for work because, the commute, there's been several times where I've had to pull over on the side of the road where there's no shoulder because I'm having an accident in my car. So that one's been hard. And then I've also started to have some of the neuropathy in my legs at night.
Spasms?
Not spasms, it's pain in my feet. So it started off as a feeling of extreme cold, and now it's just kind of a painful feeling. I don't know.
So maybe not restless leg, but
no.
Yeah, something else. Neuropathy, you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you do to sort of, I mean, you talked about the neurogenic bladder and bowel and kind of the steps you take, that you need to when commuting and things like that. Do you do anything for the neuropathy? And tell us about your lifestyle and sort of how you stay healthy.
Yeah. I like that question. So I tried gabapentin, a low dose, and I didn't notice an impact. I think I can go up higher if I want. But for now, how do I stay healthy? I focus on, I'm very thoughtful about what I eat and put in my body, and I work out 5 days a week. Dr. Eichler likes to tell me that the exercise is keeping me walking and my balance good. So that feels like something I can control, and it feels good. So I focus on that. And it's evolved because I used to be a runner. My husband and I used to run quite a bit, but the bowel issues have really, kind of put in a damper on that. So now I'm into weights and Peloton and things like that.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yes, keep moving. We've had a few guests that have been like rock stars in that department. They just keep pushing through. Like, that is something you can control.
Yeah.
So you can do it, do it. Bladder and bowel beside, but yeah, we're gonna definitely have Katie. We would love to do a bladder and bowel special episode. So we will definitely welcome you if you're willing.
I'm happy to talk bowel and bladder all day.
You can join us. We'll have case studies.
You know what's funny? I also have ulcerative colitis. So when the symptoms started, I thought I was having a flare. I'm like, I feel fine. But I'm having these accidents. I kept going back to my GIs, like doing tests. You're not having a flare. And I'm like, but this is happening. Yeah. So it was kind of a relief when I found out, like, okay, that makes sense. Now I know why.
Yeah. So you're conscious of what you eat. Is there anything else that you do? We've heard folks talk quite a bit about Metamucil, different supplements they've tried. Is there anything else you do or would recommend to others? I know that lots of people try different things.
Yeah, because you kind of go back and forth between this period where you're having accidents and then you'll be like constipated for days.
Yep.
So yeah, Metamucil, Miralax, suppositories in situations where things just aren't moving. Those are, I would recommend to others. They seem to help. Have you heard any other recommendations from people?
We're team Metamucil, and we've talked about Metamucil a lot. Yeah. That was actually recommended that to one of my AMN men friends now from our men's group, and he mentioned it to me, and I had an incident. Well, it was on a past episode where I literally was like I was so constipated that I couldn't pee. Like, the system is either we're doing this or we're doing that. We're doing this, we're doing that, and we can't do both at the same time. And it was a whole thing. And then I literally took a little bit of Metamucil things. That was the first time I ever took it. Things started going, was gone. And then I was able to pee. And so life is good. And then, so I've since, for the most part, I don't take it every day, but I'll usually just take a little scoopful in the morning. And it's been keeping my regularity better. So I don't have those, I'm constipated for days. And then when it's got to go moments.
Yeah.
So regularity is,
key.
It's key. It's hard to find, though. I think.
It is. And as far as some people have like tricks, like run the water, and like I've discussed over many glasses of wine with women talking about bowel and bladder, but knowledge is power. So
for sure.
Yeah, it seems like people try. There's not a magic pill. And people try different things, dietary changes. We've had guests tell us about, extreme diet restriction, no alcohol, no caffeine, just eating really cleanly. So that's always interesting too. And I think challenging to make those lifestyle adjustments. So
yeah. Well, speaking of food, like, going into work, if I have to go in early in the morning, not eating has kind of helped, at least for me, feel like, okay, I have this time, I probably can get there if I don't eat anything and have my, my backup stuff in the back of the car. But that's helped a bit. I don't think it's necessarily healthy, but it's helped me at least get there.
Yeah, manage the symptom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going back to your family here. So I'm sorry to hear that your grandma, how beautiful in that picture, and your mom have passed. So they passed prior to testing, right? And in Braden's diagnosis.
Yes. Yep. Both of them.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a mystery. That resonates with me, as my mom passed as well, before, my son was born. But, are there others in your family? You said your brother, you'd love him to get tested, but, or is it mainly you and Braden?
It's mainly Braden and I, no cousins. So we're really the two.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about, that can be a little bit isolating sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You have a great husband, obviously.
Yeah.
You shared about Chris. Who else are sort of your go-tos when the going gets rough, or when you have something that you'd like to celebrate? Like, who do you go to? Who's your support system?
Definitely Chris. He's probably my biggest support system. And we're a pretty close family. I mean, our oldest is off at college and Braden's getting ready to go, but we do a lot of stuff together as a family. And then we have some good friends. And like I mentioned, they've been down their own rare disease journey that we spend quite a bit of time with them. And ironically, probably some of our closest friends live right here in our neighborhood that we spend time with. We have a ladies group that, we kind of text with, or we get together every so often. And I have a handful of friends that I grew up with that are also people I reach out to when things feel tough.
That's so great. And beyond those groups, are there ALD groups that you connect with too? I know I've seen you talked about ALD Connect and how that was sort of your first point of contact. And I've seen you at the conferences. Tell us about that.
Yep. So we're part of ALD Connect. I think our engagement is kind of ebbed and flowed. So we go to the conference every year. We've been part of I think they're monthly project meetings. I can't remember, the names changed. So we had been part of those. Peer mentors, some of the ad hoc projects that Kathleen had led. Something that I want to, between work and family, I haven't had a ton of time to be involved, but something I want to be more involved with. We're definitely involved with the community online. And there's been a handful of people that I've connected with over the years that we kind of just stay in touch and reach out periodically. We also started our own fundraising work. And the money that we've earned, I think it's like $130,000 to date, has all gone directly to Dr. Eichler's lab at MGH. But that was something that allowed us to feel a bit more in control, raising awareness, advocating, and raising money for research for the community.
Yeah, that really speaks to putting your passion to purpose, right? And feeling like with so many uncontrollables,
yeah,
you have you're empowered to control something. So tell us about that. I mean, inspire me. How did you raise over $100,000? Did you have events? What sort of things did you participate in? How did you rally?
Yeah, it started in COVID. We had no idea what we were doing. So actually, we had an event planned in March in 2020 that we were going to have a comedian. We had like raffle. We had people were bringing food. We were going to have like a charge at the door, and we ended up having to cancel all that because COVID hit. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And one of the first things we did were these, I can't even remember what we were calling them, like Powerballs or something. It was a game my husband learned. And we had this big board, and there was like 60 different balls, and people could buy the balls for a certain cost. And then, you know, based on how, I can't remember all the details, but how the balls came up on the board, you could win money. So that was one of the first ways we started fundraising. And then, like I said, we were both runners, but by that point I had kind of backed off, but Chris had accelerated his running. So he did this thing, 4x4 by 48.
Yep.
I can't remember who's the guy who came up with that.
Oh, yeah.
He's online. I can't remember. Anyway, Chris did that, and we made it kind of like a media thing. He reached out to local news in Massachusetts as well as our local newspaper, and he did this 4x4 by 48, where every 4 hours you run 4 miles for 48 hours. And that was one of our first, people were sponsoring him and sending him money. Every time he went out for a run, I was online, like giving an update and then also giving information about ALD. So we were able to raise money that way. And then he got it was still during COVID, he got a virtual number for the Boston Marathon. So they didn't run it live. They ran like people would run it in their hometowns. So that also allowed us to get the media engaged again, and we fundraised through that. And then he ran every street in our town. So that was another way. Like, he was doing this thing, and we used it as a way to, get some media attention and raise awareness and raise funds. And then from there, it's been primarily the Boston Marathon. He's been able to get a few more numbers for friends, and so that helped us increase the amount that we were able to bring in.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's funny because it actually showed up in my memories today from 5 years ago, 2021, the $20,000 goal. And I wish I could have set it up. I would have put the videos up here, but yeah. But
very cool. So what are the plans for this year? Is Chris running again?
No. So Chris had a heart attack unexpectedly, and he's doing very well. He's run the marathon once since then, but I think it's kind of slowed down, like the marathon stuff. So we need to regroup, rethink, figure out what's next. But something definitely is next. We just don't know yet. One year we did an online auction, so that's something we've been thinking about as well. Maybe going back to that.
Yeah, I love that.
It's great. That's
awesome. It's so inspiring to hear people with creative ideas raising funds for research for ALD. It's really awesome. So let's go back to Braden for a second. So tell us how, he's managing with MRIs every 6 months, his medicine for adrenal insufficiency.
Yep.
How old? He's about to graduate high school now.
I'm gonna share. Yeah. So Braden is 17. He's gonna graduate in May. He has taught himself to play any guitar that he can get his hands on. So electric, bass, acoustic. He also taught himself to play keyboard. He formed a band with some friends, and they've performed. He's also been invited into some professional performances. He's got a cute little girlfriend now. She's actually the lead singer of his band, which we said, you need to be careful, Braden. That might not be a good idea. But so far, so good. And he's getting ready to go to college. We're still waiting on a few decisions, but he's going to study neuroscience, which we're super excited about. Yeah. So he's doing really well. I mean,
and his top choice is
UMass. That's where his brother goes. Yeah. Yep.
I wore this on purpose today.
Thank you.
Sending the good vibes. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. Spring break's coming up. The picture there, you can see our older son. Ryan, he goes to UMass. And he's studying pre-law. He's coming home for spring break next week. And he and I are going to fly to Washington with his girlfriend to see her parents. And ironically, I don't know how this happened. They moved to Washington State in the same little town, Linden, where my mom lived. Like,
Goodness.
what are the chances?
Yeah.
That is really
there. Yeah, and I still have some friends out there, so it's working out.
Awesome.
Cool.
That'll be a great trip. So thinking about Braden going to college, are you nervous at all about how he'll manage his health and well-being, and what are you thinking about that?
So
and how do you talk to him now that he's not a little kid anymore?
Well, we try to encourage him to take ownership of his medication and staying on top of that and refilling and taking a stress dose with him, wearing his emergency bracelet. He's pretty good at managing his medicine. He does, he has like his med kit for the week. He refills that. Sometimes he will forget, like if he's out and about, an afternoon dose or something. We struggle with getting him to take his emergency medicine with him when he goes out. And I think the thing I worry about the most is, one, just ensuring like he gets a schedule where he figures out, like, do I need to take my afternoon medicine with me? So if I'm out and about, I take it during the day. But, college kids binge drink and they're exposed to a lot more. And so my biggest concern is that he's going to be in a situation where he's drinking and he gets sick and he doesn't have a stress dose, or nobody knows that he could have a adrenal crisis. So I don't know. These are mom fears, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Or he gets sick at school, which I'm not as worried about because luckily we're not that far away.
Yeah. I mean, college is tricky for anybody, never mind somebody with some, serious medical things that they have to be conscious of. You mentioned, that you found out about ALD because of the adrenal crisis. Has he had adrenal crisis since then, or has he managed everything pretty well? Obviously, with you and Chris guiding him and helping him.
Yeah, and he's had situations. He had a really bad leg break where the bone, we had to have like pins and stuff put in the bone. Fortunately, he was at home when that happened, so we got him his stress dose quickly. The illnesses he's had, always been able to take oral medication. So we haven't been in another situation where it's gone to crisis. We've always been able to manage it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Thank you for the mom words, because I'm horrendous. I'm horrendous with doing all of the above. I always feel I never take anything with me when I should. I needed those mom words.
Have you been in those situations where, like,
I don't
crisis,
think I've ever been out and about, but I've had situations where I just get sick. I've got the flu. And I mean, there was one episode about a year or two ago. I actually woke up and I was passed out on the bathroom floor. So I'm assuming while I had the flu, I'm assuming I potentially had a crisis. And when you get sick, I'm not thinking, oh, take hydrocortisone. I need to, but I didn't. And so it's just stuff like that, okay, yeah. And I mean, and I had an incident before I even knew about, that I even had adrenal insufficiency, where I went to get in, it was raining. I went to get, it's a whole story, but it was raining. I went to get in, I had to get lottery tickets because everyone knows my whole lottery connection, but I had to get lottery tickets. So I go to get in the car, my butt missed the seat and I went down on the ground, and that right there was shock. And it literally, the world was spinning, and I ended up taking myself I had to go to the bank. I sat in the bank parking lot, dazed and confused, and I'm fairly certain I was in adrenal crisis. And I remember I got food, and that was fine. And so, but I eventually kicked back. But knowing what I know now, there should have been something. I should have took myself to the emergency room at that point. But
sounds like it.
And the sad story at the end of the day, all of those lottery tickets that I bought, not one of them was a winner, because they all went on the ground in the rain, and I had to pick them up and that was just. But stories.
So you
memories.
went through all that for nothing?
For nothing. I was like, but I did not die. So it's like, we're
That's
winning
true.
on
That's
that when we look back
positive.
at it.
Oh, well, we hope our boys make good choices, right?
Yes, we do.
As they grow older and get more independent and become fully independent from their parents, we hope they make good choices and have good role models, Ken.
Yeah, Ken.
So speaking about role models, Katie, you mentioned you're a peer mentor to others in the ALD community. What do you when somebody comes to you newly diagnosed, what are some words of advice that you give them? They're just learning about ALD.
So don't read a lot online, and don't feel like you need to join the communities until you're ready. It can be a lot. Give yourself grace to move through the process, and as you get more experience and education, the way you feel is going to change. And there's really no path. Like whatever works for someone is what works for them. I think it's more just giving yourself time to work through it all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've coined the phrase diagnosis funk because I feel like it just, when you find out about this, it takes a while,
Yes,
and
it
it's
does.
like that funk can sort of manifest in interesting ways. Like I was just spiraling out of control. I was like Googling everything and, crying. And, for others, it can look different. And I feel like, it can take a short while to sort of move through or much longer, depending on your situation.
Waves too.
Yeah.
Depending
Good
on
point.
what comes.
Definitely. So I think that's great advice. All
I don't
right.
usually give great advice, but if you say it's great advice, it's great.
That sounded like great advice to me. So Ken, do you want to ask Katie the $1 million question here? You mentioned Powerball, Katie. Ask her the Powerball winning lotto question.
If you could live one day without ALD, what would you do?
If I could live one day without ALD, we'll
give you 2 days if you need it.
Chris and I, when we first met and we were dating, we trained and ran a marathon together. And then we did another one after we were married. And I really miss those days. I miss being able to do that and train with him. And so if I had a day without ALD and I could just go out and do anything, I think that's what I would do. I would tell Chris we need to train for a marathon and do it again together.
Nice.
Better you than me. That's amazing. That's awesome. Wow.
Do I get to ask you guys what you would do?
Sure.
Sure.
I think when we did our first episode, we never asked that question.
I don't think we revealed what we would do.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have one off the top of your head, Christy? I got to think real quick.
I don't know. I think I need to think about this.
I would also I actually did do like mud runs and stuff. And I wasn't that good at it because I think that was like the beginning of my symptoms where I had no idea what was going on. But just doing it was cool. And even just walking unassisted, because I walk assisted. So sometimes it's just a pain in the butt because you got to get in the back of the car, get the roller, put it back in, yada, yada, yada. It's just like a whole thing. And, I wish I could just go back to the days where I didn't have to. And and I rollerbladed and I didn't get into skateboarding, but like just doing stuff like that where balance comes into key. But
yeah, that makes sense.
I like it.
Yeah, for me, something that some other folks have said really resonated with me, and that's like my thoughts are, on a daily basis, I have so many thoughts about ALD through my work and through, you know, being here now, talking with others. I'm also a peer mentor. So much of my day is consumed by ALD. And honestly, I like it. I enjoy it. I feel like it's purposeful.
Yeah.
But that being said, nobody wants a rare disease, right? Nobody.
Yeah.
And if my brain capacity was used for something else, I think that would be good. You know, I mean, I think, you know, maybe I'd be more creative. I'd, you know, have a creative outlet in a different way or something like that. But I do feel like, you know, when my son was diagnosed, that was sort of like so life shifting for me in terms of, you know, how I thought and what consumed my days and all of that kind of thing. So I'm not going to run a marathon, but I do feel like, yeah, you know, I'm very fortunate. I can exercise and I can, you know, dance and unassisted, all the things, you know. And it's been so inspiring to talk to other people to hear about, you know, what they do and what to not take for granted. Because I think we can take things for granted really easily. And so it does make me think, well, how can I be more active? What else can I do? And how can I be more joyful in life and not let this consume me so much, you know? And while I enjoy the work, like I said, I definitely think, you know, sometimes you can get down on certain things. And so, yeah, I'm going to think more about exactly what I would do. Like, I'm going to pinpoint it, but I'm not quite sure yet.
I'll have to tune in to hear your update.
Right? I mean, my son is not playing football. My wishes for him, you know, I don't wish for him to play football. That's not our sport in our family. But he's really coordinated and athletic. And my wish for him is like to feel uninhibited in sports. You know, I do think about him like jumping on trampolines and doing, you know, rough housing as he gets older. He's such a little guy right now. But I think about like, I don't want him to feel sort of too cautious, you know, I want to just go all in. So I think that's my wish for him. That would be my wish for him, is to just like go all in and not have a care in the world. And maybe he'll be that way anyway. Who knows?
I love it. That's so great.
Yeah, we'll see. But thanks so much for spending this time with us. It's been really fun chatting and hearing about your family's journey. And yeah, you're so inspiring, Katie, and we're so lucky to have you in the community. And I'm excited to talk more at conferences. I always look forward to seeing you.
We'll be in Utah this year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Never been. So I'm looking forward to it.
Same. And I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for doing this podcast and bringing the community together and helping us share our stories.
Yes, that's the whole point, right? ALD, no limits.
Yep.
No, nothing's off the table here. Nope. And to our listeners who are joining us just newly diagnosed, or if you've been in the community for a long time, we're grateful you're here too. Please like and subscribe.